Psychologists have spent decades studying what separates people who actually succeed long-term from people who don't. And the answer isn't IQ, it isn't talent, it isn't even opportunity. It comes down to this one trait: conscientiousness. Being conscientious is the tendency to be organized, disciplined, reliable, and focused on long-term goals, and is often considered the number one predictor of long-term success across domains: career, health, finances, relationships, all of it. But let's put the science aside for a minute. What conscientiousness actually looks like in real life is much simpler than that. It's having that strong sense of duty, self-efficacy, follow-through, and essentially integrity between what you say and what you do. So I'm going to be using the term self-efficacy for the rest of the video because it's easier to pronounce. And I wanted to share this idea of self-efficacy because it's a trait I identified in myself through the Big 5 personality assessment, and I genuinely think it's been behind most of the meaningful changes I've made in my life. And I'm not saying this to sound preachy. I just think that if I can distill what actually keeps me consistent into an actionable framework, it might help someone else trying to build that same mindset in their own habits. Side note, the Big 5 is a personality assessment framework widely considered the gold standard in psychology for understanding human behavior. It measures 5 core personality traits and how strongly each one shows up in you. And when I trace it all back, I think I first felt this trait in action in school. I was really studious growing up, not because I loved studying, but because I hated the feeling of sitting in an exam and not knowing the answer. That feeling was just unbearable to me. So I studied, and when I did, I got good results. I was consistently at the top of my class, all the way from grade 7 to grade 12, even through undergrad. So I think over time, my brain learned a very simple lesson. If I do the thing, I don't feel terrible and I get good outcomes. And I believe this has transferred to other areas of my life like fitness, content creation, and skill building at work. That loop, repeated enough number of times, built something in me, that identity of someone who follows through. And that's exactly what I want to help you build today, because the most important thing that I want you to take away from this video is this: that loop is buildable. You're not simply born with it or without it. You develop it through experience, through small wins, and through repeatedly connecting your actions to outcomes in a way that means something to you. And after studying the paths of many successful founders and creators, I was able to identify 5 reasons why this quality is so powerful and 5 micro habits that you can start using today to actually build it. Here's why self-efficacy matters. It turns intention into action. Most people know what they need to do: train, save money, build a skill, show up consistently. The knowing is rarely the problem. The gap is between knowing and actually doing it every day without waiting for motivation or without needing the stars to align. I learned that people with a strong sense of accountability don't rely on feeling ready. They rely on systems and habits. And because of that, they make progress on the days everyone else takes off, which over a long enough timeline makes all the difference. This is not to say that you should hustle endlessly. This is more about staying committed to your path even when life gets in the way. Because long-term success is simply the product of small good actions repeated consistently over time. The second reason is that the effects of self-efficacy compound. Small consistent actions don't just add up. They multiply. 1 hour of focused work daily becomes mastery over years. Regular savings becomes wealth. Showing up to train consistently becomes a body and fitness level you didn't think was possible. But here's the thing about compounding. It works only if you don't quit. And most people quit. They lose the streak and then abandon the whole thing. Conscientious people show up even when it's boring, are able to stick through plateaus where nothing seems to be working, and avoid quitting early, unless they're on a path that's not aligned. And they're the ones who eventually look back and can't believe how far they've come. Number 3, it prevents self-sabotage. A major reason people fail long-term is not the lack of talent, but because their own behaviors and habits get in the way, like procrastination, impulsive decisions, inconsistency, and abandoning plans. Developing a strong sense of duty acts like an internal regulator. It creates a distance between impulse and action. It allows you to plan ahead. You delay gratification. You don't blow up your own progress because something shinier comes along. It makes you not destroy your own progress. Number 4, it builds trust and opens doors. Over time, people notice reliability. For example, your manager notices who delivers without being chased. Clients notice who shows up consistently. People around you notice who does what they said they would do. And of course, this happens over a period of time. not overnight. People do notice because genuine follow-through is rare. And this creates opportunities like promotions, collaborations, and even leadership roles. So you're not just relying on luck. Number 5, it works in every domain. Unlike a specific skill or talent that only applies in one area, integrity between your words and actions transfers across everything. Your career, fitness, academics, finance, and even relationships. And that's exactly why psychologists consistently find it to be the number one predictor of success, broadly speaking, not just in one area. So here's how you can build self-efficacy practically. Make your commitments visible. You might have experienced this. A goal that only lives in your head is easy to quietly abandon. I found that it really helps to write it down, track it, tell someone, visualize it, or just put it somewhere you'll see every day. Visibility creates accountability to yourself first, and if you've shared it, to someone else too. And accountability, even if self-imposed, raises the cost of quitting. Now here's a little hack for you. Connect action to a feeling. The trick here is to feel the result of following through and equally feel the discomfort of not following through. That's actually how my self-efficacy developed. I didn't study because I loved to. I studied because I couldn't stand the feeling of not knowing the answer. The discomfort of not following through was more painful than the effort of just doing it. So find that feeling for yourself. Look within. What does it actually cost you when you don't follow through? How does it feel in your body, in your day, and in how you see yourself? Use that. Let it motivate you more than any external reward ever could. Start small, but make it non-negotiable. I see a lot of people struggling in this area. They go big, burn out, and abandon the path. And that's what I used to do as well for a really long time before I figured out that the secret is to just get back at it. And I've even said this in some of my other videos. 30 minutes every day beats 5 hours once a week, psychologically, because every time you show up, even in a small way, you cast a vote for the identity of someone who follows through. And those votes accumulate until one day showing up is just who you are, not something that you have to force. Stop relying on motivation and build a routine instead. I say this in most of my videos that motivation is a feeling. And it's fleeting because feelings are unreliable. The people who stay consistent don't rely on motivation every day. They build routines that remove recurring decisions entirely. For example, stocking your fridge with healthy food makes eating well easier. Scheduling workouts on your calendar makes it far more likely that you'll show up. And something that's personally helped me a lot in my own life is setting an intention for 2 to 3 priority tasks that I will complete each day as soon as I wake up. Because once something is pre-decided, it stops being a question of whether you feel like doing it. It simply becomes what happens at that time. For example, when you schedule your workouts in advance, the gym isn't something you debate on a daily basis. It's just what you do because it's a Tuesday. The less you negotiate with yourself, the more likely you are to follow through. And the last one is to build your identity. And no, this isn't about making something your entire personality or getting too attached to a story that you tell yourself. For example, here's where you stop saying things like, I'm trying to be more disciplined, and start saying things like, I'm someone who finishes what I start. Because humans tend to act in alignment with who they believe they are. And every time you follow through on something, however small, you're not just completing a task. You're building evidence for a self-concept. You're telling yourself a story about who you are and you're backing it up with proof or lack thereof. Once that story becomes, I'm someone who does what they say, follow through stops being something that you have to manufacture. It becomes something you protect because it's who you are. So here's the bottom line. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is rarely about talent. And it's almost never about not knowing what to do. It's about follow through and consistency over time without requiring perfect conditions. And the good news is, it's trainable. It starts with one small commitment you actually keep and then add another and then another. Until the evidence stacks up and your identity shifts, that's when the results start to compound. You don't need to be the most talented person in the room. You just need to be the most reliable version of yourself repeatedly and over a long period of time. That's the whole game. If this resonated with you, do drop a comment below and I'd love to know which part hit closest to home for you. And if you know someone who's been stuck in the cycle of starting and stopping, send this to them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.